Have you ever lived in a haunted house?
Not once, but twice, and they were both rentals. So my mom and my brother moved to North Carolina, and they moved to Statesville. And there was an old abandoned hospital, and next to the old abandoned hospital was this Victorian house, and the Victorian house was divided into half, made into a duplex. It wasn't originally a duplex, but it was made into a duplex. But before it was a duplex, that Victorian house, they didn't have hospice back then, but they had what they call like the old folks home or the geriatric center. And so what would happen is when people were toward the end of their life, they would go and move into this house for their final days. And according to the landlord, it wasn't just like a few dozen. I mean, we're talking like over 100, maybe 200 people actually died in this house. So this was a haunted, rich environment here in this house. The old abandoned hospital was freakish too. I mean, people used to like spray paint pentagrams and 666 and whatever. A couple movies were actually filmed in that old abandoned hospital. The Ryan White story, the kid that got HIV, they made it into his high school, and that old abandoned hospital was used as his high school in the movie or whatever. But old abandoned hospital next door, and then this Victorian house. And so I was going to school at UNC Charlotte. That's 45 minutes away. So I was commuting back and forth. Sometimes the rugby house would let me stay there, and sometimes I was staying with my mom and my brother. But my brother and I, there was always drawers open in the kitchen. Like the cabinet doors would be open, and my mom would yell at us, and we're like, we swear we didn't do it, but my brother and I are both ADHD, so we might have left it. But then like the silverware drawer would be open, and that's not something that, we would normally leave open. So my mom would yell at me like, I really don't think it. So I always thought it was my brother. My brother always thought it was me. So we had drawers open all the time. My brother and his friends were into that Ouija board, and he said it was just flying like all over the place, like the most activity ever. I don't really get into Ouija boards or anything like that, but also the flames would flicker on a candle and get brighter and bigger and everything. So, but my brother's like really into that stuff. I'm not so into it. So anyways, one day I was taking a shower, and before I got into the shower, I take off my underwear, I throw the underwear into the room and everything. I take my shower, come back out, dry off and everything, and my underwear is hanging on the doorknob, like by the waistband, perfectly on the opposite side of the door. So I guess it's possible that I threw it over the door and it landed like right on the door handle, but not really and everything. And so I told the landlord that story, and he said, yeah, that's kind of weird. And I was like, why is that weird? He said that there was a lady that used to take care of all the old people in the house, and she was like a neatness fanatic, and she hated if anything was like lying on the floor in a disarray. And then when she got older, she actually died in the house, and the rumor was that she's the one who had haunted that house. So in that house, probably, I think.
So what was the second house that you lived in?
There was a second haunted house, and it was actually it was earlier. That's when I was in high school. My mom rented a house on an alleyway in Saratoga Springs, New York. And it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-story house. It was like white stucco with wood, and it had like one of those octagon kind of roofs or whatever. And I just had this vivid dream one night. I was in bed asleep, and this old guy who looked like he was from the 1800s, he had a vest and no teeth, and he like slammed me into my bed. And it was, I was in bed dreaming and everything. He slams me into the bed and he starts choking me. And he had like this deep foreign accent. He's like, what are you doing in here? And I was just like, and he was holding a whip, like a crop and everything. And I was like, and like, he was like shaking me. And then like I woke up, but like I had been pressed into the bed, and I woke up and I was just like sweating. It was just a nightmare and everything. Well, I told the landlord, and he gets white as a ghost, and he's like, I don't know if you know this or not, but the house that you live in was a carriage house behind the Victorian house. So it was a renovated carriage house, where, and that guy had lived in the loft, and allegedly he got drunk one night and rolled off the loft and fell to his death or whatever. So he was the caretaker. So it was just weird coincidental that I had that dream, and the landlord connected the dots.